Welcome back to the channel for another daily race lap guide. This is your go-to series where I break down corner by corner one of the fastest times on the global leaderboard so you don't have to. Now, I'll be the first to admit, my driver rating took a bit of a bruising after last week, but it's Monday and that means we have a new set of daily races to get stuck into. And this week we are heading to the legendary Spa in Belgium for daily race B. Join me as I take us through all the essential information you need to know, along with some tips to help you start as high up the grid as possible. If you're planning on competing this week, stay tuned. You do not want to miss this. Let's dive straight in. We'll start with the race information. Here we have 5 laps, 16 cars in the race with a rolling start, fuel consumption rate is set to ×1, tyre wear rate is set to ×1. The regulations are, we have one usable dry tyre and that is the racing medium. The intermediate and wet tyres are also available. Car category for this race is Group 3. Wide body, nitrous or overtake are prohibited. Under car restrictions we have BOP is set to high speed. Under car settings, adjustable brake balance only. For race settings, DR and SR are both affected. There is light mechanical damage, minimum number of pit stops is set to none, and track limits are set to normal. And finally, penalty settings, shortcut penalty is set to weak, there is no wall collision penalty, colliding with other cars is penalised, and cutting the pit lane line on entry or exit attracts a penalty. Today's lap we are going to be looking at is at the time of this recording the top time on the global leaderboard of a 2 minute 16.597 completed in the Audi R8 LMS Evo 2019. Now, with all the formalities out of the way, let's get out on track. Coming down the pit straight here at Spa, I'm not sure if there are many better combinations on this game than Group 3 cars, medium tyres at Spa. I don't know, you let me know your favourites in the comments below, but anyway, let's get back to the lap guide. So we've got 2 brake markers here for you for the first corner. On the right side, there's a floodlight. Once that reaches the edge of your screen, you can brake, or just ahead of that, there is a red post on the fence. Just before that reaches the edge of your screen, you can brake. And we've actually got 2 turn-in markers for you here as well. So on the right side, again, there is a red post in the fence. Once that reaches the edge of the screen, you can start to turn in, or just ahead of that, there is a grey box structure. Just before that reaches the edge of your screen, you can turn in for the first corner. Shifting down to first gear, and we just want to be careful on the wall on the inside of the corner here. There are some strange physics where it'll either bump you sideways or spin you round. Either way, your lap will be toast already. So a couple of reference points. We want to get our right side wheels as close to the green concrete on the inside of the curb here as possible, but not too far across it. And there are also a couple of tyre marks that go across the curb. If you can keep your car to the left side of the innermost tyre mark, you'll be round and safe with not hitting the wall. And we want to be careful on the throttle initially coming out of this corner to avoid any power oversteer. So just as we reach the middle of the corner here, we're going to start to accelerate. We're going to stay in first gear as we come out. And there's a couple of grid spots here. So the nearest grid spot in the middle of the track, that's where we want to start to get to full acceleration. And then the furthermost grid spot is where we want to be at full power. Just be careful on the left-hand side. There is a sausage curb with some Astro. If you straddle that too much, you'll either lose too much time because you need to come out of the power, or you might even spin out. And as we make the run down to Eau Rouge, we're going to bring the car across to the right-hand side of the track. We are going to do this flat out, but do not worry, it is not a problem on medium tyres. Once we go under this bridge, there are CCTV cameras on the right-hand side. Once you get to the second CCTV camera, that is our turn-in point. And we really want to cut across this first curb just to give us the best line through the corner. So we want to get our left side wheels just onto the grass on the inside of that grey curb there. Once we reach the end of the curb is where we're going to turn back into the right, and we're going to follow those tyre marks as they go up the hill. And as you can see, left-hand wheels pretty much in the grass there, and our right-hand wheels are all over the curb. Track limits? What track limits? As we come across to the right, we're going to hug the curb, we're going to keep our foot in, and for Radeon, you can get quite far across. There is a little bit of track limits here. As long as you keep 2 wheels at least on the red and yellow curb, you'll be fine. And we'll go over the top of the hill and power all the way down the Kemmel Straight. just before we reach the curb on the left here, this is going to be our brake marker. We want to bring the car across to the left as we brake onto the curb, just to give us a wide entry to this corner. And we've got 2 turn-in markers for you here. So on the right-hand side where there's an escape road, just before you reach the end of that escape road, you can turn in. Or on the left-hand side barrier, there is a white square. Once you hit that, you can start to turn in for the corner. And now we need to talk about bollards. Sometimes you can hit them and it's fine. Other times you hit them and you spin. I don't think you ever know which way it's going to go when you hit one. So I would just say for now, avoid them. Get as close as you can to them. You may hit the odd one, you may spin. That's what practice is for. But in the interest of getting the best time possible, you need to be brave against them, but just don't try to hit them. Anyway, enough about those pesky little critters and let's get on with the lap guide. So there's a little black disc in between these 2 bollards, as you can see. Once you reach that, you're going to start to accelerate gently, but by the time you get to the end of the green concrete on the other side of the second bollard, we want to put our foot down very briefly just to keep speed through this first part of the corner. And as we get to the end of the curb and we lose sight of it on the right hand side, we're going to make sure we're turning back across to the left. Just before we reach the curb on the left hand side, we want to dab the brakes just to settle the car down, but also it's really important that we stay to the left for the next corner coming up, which is a right-hander. And we are going to do all this in second gear. Some cars it is better to shift up to third as you go around the left-hander, but for the Audi, second gear seems to be optimal. Now, keeping the car to the left-hand side, we've got an acceleration marker on the right, so where the grass turns to concrete, just as that reaches the edge of your screen, you can accelerate. And then we've got a couple of turn-in markers for the right-hander here. So on the left-hand side, there's some white squares. I think they're part of a barrier there. Once the end white square reaches the edge of your screen, you can turn in. Or on the right-hand side, where the barrier ends on the red and it turns into Armco, once that reaches the edge of your screen, you can start to turn in. This is the committed part of the turn in. So you are starting to turn in a little bit before this, just kind of following the flow of the track. But once you reach either of those points, whichever one you prefer, that's where you really commit to turn in. And for the right-hander here, we're going to lift, not brake. So once the Gran Turismo signs on the left-hand side reach the left-hand side of your screen, you're going to lift. On the inside of the corner, where the green concrete starts on the curb, that's where we're going to start to accelerate. We don't want to be full power straight away. We just need to be gentle to not go out on the gravel on the left. But there is a lot of space out there, so you can use the wide curb on the exit of the corner. And also, mind out for the bollards. And as we lift, we're going to shift up to third gear before we get back on the power, using all the space on this lovely wide curb that I just mentioned. And as we make our way down the hill to the next corner, our brake marker is the curb on the left-hand side. As we brake, we're going to start to bring the car across to the right-hand side. We want to make an early entry to this corner. Everything here falls away to the left-hand side and we're trying to turn to the right. So this will help us keep as tight to the inside of the corner as possible to get the most speed on the exit. And now we are going to use the bollards to our advantage here. So there are 3 bollards that go round this corner. Once you go past the third bollard on the outside there, that is where you're going to start to accelerate. And we're going to come around the corner in first gear. And as you can see, just as we go past this bollard, we're going to shift up to second and get straight back on the power and exit the corner. And we're going to bring the car across to the right-hand side. And our brake marker for the next left-hander, in the fence, there's some red posts again. We're going to brake on the first set of red posts, and on the second set of red posts a little bit further down the fence, that's where we're going to turn in. There's 2 bollards on the corner, believe it or not. The second bollard, once we go past that, we want to start to accelerate. And just be careful on the outside of this corner. It looks like there's a lot of room here, but the AstroTurf on the other side of the curb on the exit of the corner can be quite slippery, so just be careful how much you use that. And we're going to shift down to second gear as we come through the corner just to get a bit more rotation as we power down the hill to the next fast left-hander, where we've got a couple of brake markers here. So on the right-hand side in the fence, there's some red fence posts. As they leave your screen on the right-hand side, you can start to brake. And also there's a rock just beyond that. Once the start of that rock gets to the edge of your screen on the right-hand side, you can brake. As we brake here, we're going to turn in pretty much immediately just to carry the speed through. We're going to shift down to third gear and we're going to hug the inside of this corner as we come round, and we're going to look out to the right-hand side where there's a couple of acceleration markers. So where there's a house and some structure where the marshals are stood, Once that reaches the edge of your screen on the right hand side, you can start to accelerate. Or if you look back across to the left hand side, there is a welcome to Spa sign. Once that leaves the edge of your screen on the left hand side, you can accelerate. Just want to be careful again on the outside of the corner. Although it does look like there's quite a lot of room out there, that AstroTurf can be quite dangerous. So it'll either spin you round or it'll make your car drift quite weirdly far out to the right for some reason. I mean, I can't be the only one that's ever been on that journey, right? Maybe I have, but that's not important right now. As we exit Pool 1, we're going to come down to the next set of corners where we've got an S coming up. So as we go under this bridge, that is our brake marker for this corner. And we've got a couple of turn-in points here for you. So on the right-hand side where the barrier jots out, just as that reaches the right side of your screen, you can turn in, or there's a white line that goes across the track. Just before you reach that, you can turn in as well. We're going to shift down to second gear, and we just want to keep tight to the curb on the inside here because we want to be on the right side for the next corner. The second bollard there, that's when you can accelerate. The red and yellow curb on the right hand side, once you reach the end of that, you want to turn back into the left hander. And on the inside of the corner there, you can see some bollards. The fourth bollard is our acceleration marker for this corner. We're just going to dab the brakes as we approach just to settle the car down and keep it to the inside as much as possible. We want to be gentle on the throttle as we exit the corner. I can't tell you how many times I've started the car on the right hand side and it's ended up nose first into the barrier on the left. So just be careful of that AstroTurf on the right. As we come down to the next right hander, we've got a couple of brake markers here. So there's a van on the inside of the fence on the right side of the circuit here. Once that reaches the edge of your screen, you can brake, or if you prefer, where you can see the curb on the left hand side in front of you, when you're around a car's length ahead of that curb, you can brake. Now for our turn-in markers, if you look back towards where the van is, a little bit ahead of that, there's a rectangular structure. Once that leaves the right edge of your screen, you can turn in. Or my preferred one, which I've actually got used to and it's pretty good here, if you look at where the curb is and where the barrier runs parallel with the curb, we'll zoom in if we've got the editing skills here. We go red, yellow, red on the barrier along with the curb. Once you get to the yellow section of the barrier parallel to the curb, that's a really good turning point. And we're going to shift down to second gear, and again we want to keep tight to the inside of the curb here. We've got two acceleration markers here for you. So on the inside fence there's some red posts. Once you go past that, you can start to accelerate. And on the left hand side where you can see the hill takes a bit of a descent, so there's quite an angle there, and there's a tree that sort of sticks out from behind it. Once that comes to the left side of your screen, you can start to accelerate. Again, space on the outside of this corner. There is AstroTurf here, but it's probably the one exception of AstroTurf where it's not as treacherous as the others. I still wouldn't encourage using it too much, but you can get away with using a bit of the AstroTurf on this exit. And for the next right-hander, we want to take this flat out as we go round because there's a big straight coming up after this. So where you can see the green concrete just before the red and yellow curb, that is our turn-in point. A little bit further around the corner, we want to make sure our right-hand wheels are on the curb on the inside. There's a little bit of a dip there, so it doesn't really affect you too much. It won't push you too far out to the left-hand side. Also, mind out for the bollard. So for Blanchimont, there is not even a hint of braking here. We are flat out all the way through this. So a couple of pointers for this corner. You can see that the tyre marks as you go around the track, that is a pretty good guide as to what the line should be. Also, what I tend to do is aim for the curb where you can see the yellow and red. If you aim for that to get your left front tyre on that, you'll make it round every single time, no problem. You'll drift nicely to the right and you'll maintain all the speed all the way through the corner. Now coming up to the bus stop chicane, which is our last braking zone for this lap. So we've got a couple of brake markers here for you. The 150 board on the left hand side. Just as you go past that 150 board, you can brake, or if you prefer, on the right hand side, there's an advertisement board in the distance. Once the edge of that board reaches the edge of your screen on the right side, you can brake. And we've got a couple of turn-in markers here for you. On the left-hand side, on the barrier, there's an orange square. Once you go past that, you're going to start to turn in. And a little bit further ahead, there's a floodlight with a yellow generator thing stuck to it. Once that reaches the edge of your screen, you want to make sure you're committed to the turn in here. So we're going to be really aggressive on the first curb because we want to make sure we get as far across to the right as possible for the second part of the chicane. And we're going to shift down to first gear, and you can just see how aggressive we are being here. So our right hand wheels are completely on the green concrete. Our left hand wheels are all over the curb, completely across the white line. As we go across the curb, we're going to feed a little bit of throttle in just to maintain some speed, and we're going to turn back immediately to the left-hander, and we're going to look immediately to the right where the fence starts. That is our acceleration marker. We're going to exit this corner in first gear, being careful on the AstroTurf on the right-hand side, and that is a lap of Spa in 2 minutes 16.597. And there we are, a lap around Spa for this week's Daily Race B. Let me know in the comments if this has helped you out, and feel free to drop by during the week to let me know how you're getting on. Have fun and race well. It would be great if you could consider subscribing to the channel so you never miss another lap guide. And why not drop into one of our Gran Turismo live streams? Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.